Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to start the lessons on describing each Chittaja Rūpa that we haven't discussed so far. Till now we have done briefly in a general sense what Chittaja Rūpas are, and at the same time what are the Chittas that perform such produce such Chittaja Rūpas, and also some activities that are involved that are done by Chitta Rūpa. Actually, each and every physical activity is done with Chitta Rūpa if it is deliberately done, intentionally done. And what are the Chittas involved in such activities? So that's what we discussed till now. So in today's lecture, we are going to talk about specifically about separate Chittaja Rūpas that are neither produced by karma and also no produced by any other cause. So our lesson will mainly focus on intimations, that is viññatti, that are only produced by chittas. There are two viññattis, that is to say kaya viññatti and vaci viññatti, bodily intimation and verbal intimation. These are exclusively produced by chitta and not by any other cause. This kaya viññatti plays a huge role in the Buddhist philosophy regarding how activities are done, physical activities are done. Now, there is a philosophical branch which tries to explain the relationship between the mind and the body. We normally call this mind-body interaction, how mind and body are interacting. The prevailing most popular view in the philosophical field is mind is an outcome of body, or the body itself is working and mind is considered some sort of a functioning of the body. The most prevailing view is functionalism, that mind should be explained based on the functions done by the physical thing. It can be either the brain or any other physical stuff that has that capacity. Then another prevailing view is mind is an outcome. It is a different nature, we can call it a reality, but it is an outcome of the functioning of the material. Then in both these prevailing views, there is no way that the mind or the consciousness could affect the Rūpa. It's just Rūpa is functioning like a robot or any other physical thing. But when you come to property substantial dualism, that is accepting the idea that there is an entity called mind separate from the body, though it depends on the body, it can influence the body. The mind can influence the body, so the body acts according to our will, according to our desire. In the common folks' knowledge, that is how we live. That, for example, if someone does any physical activity, if we want to question the person, we ask, what was your intention? What was your prior thought? Having thought what, you did this. Even in the justice system, if someone has happened to kill someone, or if someone has happened to die because of someone's activity, the accused will be questioned, accused or the suspect will be questioned. What was your intention? Did you know that this person is going to die, or did you neglect it? And what was your intention? So, if the justice system finds out that the person had an intention of killing that other person, then he is guilty of murder. So this implies that the intention, the body has worked, the suspect's body has worked based on the intention. It means the intention had made the body to work. Intention had made the body to work. So it means the mind can influence or make the body move in simple sentence, in simple wordings. This is called mind is acting upon the body. So one of the most prevailing questions in the philosophy is how could a consciousness which is an immaterial thing could make the body to move. It's a very interesting, at the same time hard to answer question in the philosophical field. So since it seems not logical in the physical sense for a non-material thing to make the body to move, most of the philosophers have evaded substantial dualism and moved into physicalism side, or epiphenomenalism, have embraced the epiphenomenalism, which still says it's just the material thing is working. There's no contribution from the consciousness to the physical activities. Now, Buddhism falls into dualism because it advocates about a separate entity called mind, apart from the Rūpa. And as Buddha has put it, Chetanaham bhikkave kammam vadami, chetayitva kammam karoti, we act having thought, chetayitva kammam karoti, based on the intention, and the intention itself is the karma. Then what happens? According to Buddhism, the mind can make the body to work. So how does this bridge is explained? How mind is making the body to move? So in this regard, normally body or physical thing. Okay. So how this defect is overcome? Now how this is explained in the tradition is normally matter. It's obvious that matter can make the matter move. Matter can make the matter move. But non-matter, the non-physical thing, the consciousness, how does it make the matter to move? It's a big problem. Right? So in Buddhism, what we say is non-matter is producing matter, and that matter is making the matter to move. Right? That's what the Theravadians explain. But still the question prevails, how could the immaterial thing could produce matter? So it's not an answer for the philosophy. The mind-body problem is not solved with this. How could a non-material thing could produce matter? Yes, we say matter could move matter, yes, but still how could non-material thing could produce something which is material? The question still remains. So, but still our purpose is taking a fundamental that the non-matter could produce matter. Non-matter could produce matter. The consciousness could produce matter, and then that is making the matter to move. So it's not answering the dualist problem, but that is the mechanism explained in Theravada teachings. So while explaining this, Theravadians, according to the Theravada viewpoint, physical body doesn't have an intention to move. It doesn't have an intention to move. So then intention has to arise. There should be an intention in making a physical movement. Then the question comes, is it utterly necessary that every physical movement should have intention? It seems yes, with regard to animate stuff. Not inanimate things. The cars and the trees could move without any intention, obviously. But and also we know in the atomic level things do move without any intention. But some panpsychists think that even the physical atoms have a consciousness. That's why they abruptly change their movements in the level of subatomic particles, which is a different philosophy. But anyhow, it seems like the animate stuff, the beings, do make intentional efforts and intentional physical movements. So according to Theravada viewpoint, deliberate action means intentional action means those actions are done based on the intention. The body itself doesn't have an intention because it's a material thing. A physical thing cannot have this thought of wanting to move or wanting to do something. Therefore, the body without consciousness is helpless. It cannot do anything. It doesn't have intention of doing or doing any physical activity or verbal activity. Then the consciousness itself, if you isolate the consciousness and talk about this consciousness itself cannot perform any physical activity because it's a non-physical entity. If you are talking about bodily activities or verbal activities that involve physical things, the consciousness itself cannot perform because it doesn't suffice to be something physical or activity to suffice as any activity because it is a non-material entity. If it is a non-material entity, it cannot perform anything. So consciousness alone performing physical or verbal activities is also something very, in terms of the definition even, it doesn't count as a physical activity. The body could perform physical activity because it's a physical thing, extended thing, but it doesn't have the basic requirement to perform the physical intentional activities because it doesn't possess any intention. The consciousness itself, it's not possible to say that the consciousness is performing any physical activity because it's a non-physical entity. But still, we see that we do act according to our will, according to our desire. So how could this be explained? How could this be explained? Then Chitta, what the Theravadians are saying is when there is a Chitta or an intention to move, when there is a Chitta or an intention to move, this Chitta or intention produces something called some matter, a Rūpa. Rūpa. These Rūpas are called Chittaja Rūpa. Chittaja Rūpa. Mind born matter. Ja, mind produced matter. That's what we have been discussing so far in these previous lectures. Chittaja Rūpa, mind produced matter. These Chittaja Rūpas make the body to move. Make the body to move. Make the body to move. So then still, what are these Chittaja Rūpas? The tradition explains these Chittaja Rūpas are with abandoned Vayu. Vayu, the air element. Why it's been explained as air element? Because air element is the material quality, material nature, which can create some pressure or a force towards a certain direction. According to Theravada teachings, any movement is based on air. Because air could flow at any direction, so it could make some pressure on another physical entity. Unless there is such a force, physical movement is not possible. So the gap, mind and the body, the gap is filled by a kind of Rūpa. Philosophically, this is not explaining, this is not proving that it could happen. This is just explaining what the Theravadians, mechanism of Theravadians. So this Rūpa has abundant Vayu. So it is capable of making creating a force that could move the body. That could move the body. Now, then in order for the body to act according to the will, otherwise which would lead to a bizarre situation. If, for example, I want to walk, but if my body happens to sit, if I want to sit, if my body happens to or talk or walk or do other activity, then what happens? Our intention and the body is not cooperating well. Then we cannot live in this world because we think beings are acting according to their desire. For example, when I'm giving a speech, giving a lecture, it's obviously understood by everyone, though we don't think it deeply. The Venerable has an intention of speaking. Venerable has an intention of sharing the knowledge that he knows from with someone else. So, and each and every word and movement is made with some intentional effort. So, if I happen to speak something unnecessary here, which is irrelevant to the subject or improper for a monk, then I am responsible for doing such activity, being aware of what is good and bad. Therefore, it is a common sense that we have that the body moves according to the desire of the person. Now, since this bridge is filled with Vayo Dhatu, Vayo is the bloating nature or the nature that causes a certain force, creates a certain force, that could have happened to any direction. Vayo can flow to any direction. We know if we fill a balloon with air, the entire surface, the pressure is upon the entire surface, not only one direction. Because Vayo is a bloating nature and it can flow to any direction. So what the Theravadins are saying is, now the body is moving. Physical activity means a movement to whatever direction. So Vayo is capable of making this movement, but it has to happen according to the desire of the person, of the Chitta. Therefore, this Chitta which produces this Vayo makes a slight change in the group of Vayo that is produced by it, by the consciousness. It's a modification. What is this modification? It makes the Vayo Dhatu to behave according to its will. According to its will. This is not advocating about a self. If the intention is to move the limbs towards the this side, I may call it to the east side or the right side. If the Chitta wants to make a movement to the right, the intention is towards the right. Then there is the Vayo Dhatu which is created by this Chitta also has the imprint of this intention, a physical imprint. This is the influence the Chitta is making upon the Rūpa. Two influences are there. Rūpa is arising due to the Chitta, which is a very big topic to discuss. And at the same time, the Rūpa that is arising due to Chitta is under the control of the Chitta. What is meant by control? If the intention is to move towards this direction, then the Vayo is focused at that direction. It's being pushed towards that direction. The force is created towards the direction intended by the consciousness. So there is sort of a slight modification. Otherwise, the Vayo could have moved to any direction. For instance, if I want to lift this hand from this position upwards, according to Theravada experience, it could have moved downwards even if the Vayo had pushed it to the downwards. Then, why does it move upwards when I want to lift it? Because the Vayo that is created in this area, which arises due to Chitta, is directed towards the intended direction, that is upwards. So why on other cases, while Vayo could flow at any side, why it is just flowing upwards or towards the intended direction? That is because Chitta or the Chetana, whatever mentality, has an influence of this, direct influence of this Vayo Dhatu. So therefore, the Vayo moves or creates the force towards the direction intended by the consciousness. Then what happens? This creates the force and the body moves toward the intended direction. But sometimes now this is what this modification which happens in the body, in the Vayo body, is called Kaya Viññatti. Kaya Viññatti. This is the bodily intimation. It's the modification on Chittaja Vayo or Chittakiriya Vayo Dhatu by the intention. It's a modification on Chittakiriya Vayo Dhatu by the intention. So the body, the force is made as intended by the mind. Then this Kaya Viññatti can be explained in it could be explained as a Rūpa. It's a modification actually, it's not actual Rūpa. The actual Rūpa are the Vayo Dhatu produced by the Chitta. This Viññatti makes the others to guess the intention of the doer. Now if you take, this is the person, right, the body and the mind, even though we drew it in two different as a diagram. Now the body and the mind is here, mind for example, the body moves, and we guess the intention of the person. So Viññati, according to the Theravadians, Viññati is the reason why we could guess the intention of the person looking at his behaviors. Looking at his behaviors. Why is that? Now think, if someone lifts his hand in order to scare a dog. In order to scare a dog. So even the animal or the someone whom we are if you are observing his behavior, we understand he has an intention to scare away the dog. That's why instead of if he call the dog, it's a different gesture. He would make a different gesture or pat it. Otherwise, he raised his hand and intended to chase it away. His hand and intended to chase it away. So we know with the observing two different gestures, we can imagine, we can assume the person's intentions. Why was that? Seeing how the body moves, we assume that he had this intention. According to Theravada explanation, body could move only because of Vayodhatu, and that Vayodhatu behaved according to the mind because it's been modified by the Viññati. It's been modified by the Viññati. So then this modification, because of this specific modification, body behaved according to the intention. So looking the person behaving, we guess or assume it's his or person's intention. And that is fulfilled by Vayodhatu. Vayodhatu alone cannot do that, because Vayu could have flown or pushed to any direction, and Viññati is the one which made the Vayu to behave according to the intentions of the mind. According to the intentions of the mind. So therefore, this Viññati is a Rūpa that helps others to guess the doer's intention. Which helps others to guess the doer's intention. So that is a definition of Viññati which helps others to understand the doer's intention. And this is understood by the moving limbs or based on the body, we call it Kaya Viññati. In the next lesson we shall discuss the Viññati, Vachi Viññati helps the observer or the listener to understand the intentions of the speaker through words. So it's a verbal modification, verbal intimation. It's called Vachi Viññati. Here the observer understands through the moving limbs. It can happen either by seeing the body is moving or feeling the body. That's why when someone is touching us, we can guess sometimes what was the person's intention. So if during rape or child abuse, normally the court would question, how did you feel his touch? Was it just a touch? Was the intention was lustful, or was it just affection or like kind touch? Especially in child abuse and so forth, we do investigate such how did you feel when the person touched? Because we know a way a person, mother, a really kind elder would touch the child, and a person who has wrong intentions would touch the person. Because lustfully we touch differently, and with the compassion we touch a person differently. It's very obvious. So therefore Viññati can be known. It's guessing. Actually it's a guess. What we see is the body, the color of the body, of the limbs which move, or we feel the pottabba, touch of the body parts that are moving upon our body. So either through touch or through visible object, through color, we see the person moving, doing an activity, and then we suddenly jump into the conclusion of the person's chitta, intention. And this is the one, even though we are not aware there is such a Rūpa, according to Theravada explanation, the mechanism, as it has been explained, this Viññati completes this bridge. Actually it's the Vayodhatu which comes in, but Vayodhatu, the bridge made by the Vayodhatu is completed. It's like it's acting upon the doer's intention because of viññati. So instead of saying vayo dhatu makes the person to know the intention, Theravadians would say the viññati is the reason why we could understand the intentions of the person. Because vayo could have flown to any side. Imagine if vayo was not under the control of the body, the person would still move. While he wants to lift the hand would go down. So we would have a different wrong perception about the person. We would have a wrong assumption. So therefore, it's not the vayo that helps us to accurately judge the person's behavior. It's the viññati. Then also we need to know it's not just based on viññati that we get the understanding. Is the experience that we have. It's the experience that we have. We, first of all, unconscious, without being aware of, without analyzing this, we know our body moves according to our intention. So that's one of the reasons that we get the self view even. Because when I want to stand, my body stands. When I want to speak, I speak out words. When I want to cry as a child, I could utter a sound and express my feelings and needs. So from childhood, we start to understand that our body is behaving according to the desire, and these two has mergers in our mind, and we consider it as the self or a person. We are unable to distinguish the mind and body. That's the normal, ordinary people are not able to do that unless you have focused on mind and body separately and made the manamaro paricheda understanding. So then we know that our body moves based on our intention. So this is known because it's observable, and then what happens, we generalize this understanding. What is that? We know when I want to, why do I walk? Because I want to walk. Why do I hit someone? Because I have anger towards that person. I dislike the person. Why do I kiss someone? Because I love the person. Why do I laugh? Because I'm unhappy. Why do I cry? Because I am unable to bear the pain. So we automatically develop understanding about the mind and the body, thinking that, generally speaking, my body acts upon my intentions. In the same way, when seeing someone others acting unconsciously means without this kind of a deep analysis, we naturally guess this is the intention of the person. So the basis for this, for us to understand the intention through this mechanism, seeing someone moving, is also, we also have a prior requirement, that is, we have an experience in ourselves that our bodies move according to our intention. So then we generalize it. If someone comes to raises the hand and comes with the angry, like a certain angry face towards us, then we suddenly understand this person is not happy with me. If someone makes a frown or looks at us with a certain look, then we understand this person is angry with me. So my personal understanding is this kind of, then the question comes, if someone expresses a certain feeling or an emotion, a physical gesture that we have never thought about. Sometimes we do get confused. That's obvious, because when we happen to meet people, cross-cultured, like people of intercultural exchanges, we find some gestures very absurd or very difficult to, we will find it difficult to get the message of certain gestures. So, for instance, we know in South Asia, when we want to say yes, we nod the head. Then when we want to say no, we just shake it this way. And we want to say okay, it's okay. So we turn the head in a slight different way. But some people of different cultures, especially in the East Asia, they don't understand this gesture. So, for example, when we turn the head in a slightly different way to express that we are okay with that, they mix it with the gesture of no. Gesture of no. That's why one of our teachers in the university, Burmese teachers, he asked one of our Sri Lankan professors once, why professor you are saying okay while nodding no? Because it seems to them like we do it like in a zizo manner, right? We say okay. So, but for them it is closer to no, like this kind of a gesture. So he asked the question, you are saying okay because we say okay, but for them they could differentiate these two gestures. So he thought his gesture is expressing no. But while he is saying okay, so he asked why you are saying okay while saying no with your head. So they had to explain, no, this is a third gesture. This is not no, this is okay gesture. So likewise, some gestures, I would not say every gesture, some gestures, if they have not experienced it, if they don't know this meaning, they would have difficulties in understanding the intention of the doer. And sometimes we do misunderstand others. We make wrong assumptions of others. Obviously, that is possible. Therefore, this understanding gained through kaya viññati is not 100% accurate. That's why we have misunderstandings in the world. If we could understand the person's intentions accurately by observing the behavior, there would be no problems, especially in the families, right? And if you could understand the intention of the doer, just listen to the words accurately, surely there will be no misunderstandings. There will be no communication issues. It will be less, right? So therefore, it's not very 100% accurate phenomena, but still in the most of the cases, it is accurate. In most of the cases, it is accurate. That's why the society could function properly. That's why we could communicate with each other. That's why the society could run respecting the norms and respecting each other. So therefore, viññati is the one which expresses the intention of the doer. Then another thing to understand, now we know that every Rūpa lasts for 17 mind moments. Every Rūpa lasts for 17 mind moments. But the viññati, since it's a modification made on the Rūpa by the Chitta, it passes away together with the Chitta. It passes away together with the Chitta. So what does this mean? Why, if the imprint was completely on the Vayu due to the Chitta, then with the passing away of the Chitta, this would still be there. For example, if it is an imprint made on the Rūpa by the Chitta, then after it is made, it's not necessary to pass away with the Chitta. So what does this imply? This shows that this modification is a present influence of the Chitta itself. When the Chitta goes away, the influence disappears. So another thing to think about this viññati. Now, if I make it very little bit clearer, now this is Vayu Dhatu. Then this is Chitta. This Vayu is produced by the Chitta, and the Chitta has the intention to move this to this direction, and this intention is imprinted in Vayu. So for example, if I write something on the paper, then even my presence or absence doesn't matter because it's written on the paper now. So whether I live or whether I die, it doesn't matter. The mark will still be there because I left a mark on a physical thing. So that physical entity is separate from myself, conventionally speaking. So my presence or absence doesn't matter, as the imprint or the mark that I made on the Rūpa would still last regardless of my existence. So now, Chitta and Rūpa are two different entities. They are not the same. Nama Rūpa Paricheda, two different entities. And this Chitta influences the Rūpa, and a slight change occurs on the Rūpa because of the Chitta. Now, according to the tradition, when this Chitta passes away, the Rūpa would still last. It lasts for 17 mind moments, but the viññati disappears. Viññati disappears together with the Chitta. So what does this mean? This implicitly says that Chitta, it's like influenced by the Chitta on the Rūpa. For example, if the influence is Now this hand being controlled by this hand, and it's making the hand to move to a certain direction. If the influence is such, when this hand disappears, the influence is also gone. But if the influence was something similar to writing on writing something on a surface, then after it's been written, my existence doesn't matter for these modifications to sustain on, exist or not. So therefore, why the viññati is disappearing with the chitta, that is because this influence is present, is an influence that the chitta is making with this existence. Then, for example, the vayu could have flown or gone to any direction. The chitta makes it to move to, chitta modifies its direction, and when chitta passes away, the modification, the influence is also gone. Now the Rūpa is already being modified. Is modified, but the modification, that the viññati, the influence is not found. Influence is not found. It disappears together with the chitta. So what does this mean? It's not a modification as written, as something written on a surface. So it's a modification or an influence of the chitta upon the Rūpa. When the chitta is gone, that influence is gone. But the outcome of the influence is the vayu dhatu is being slightly directed towards the intended direction. So the vayu would start to create Rūpas in that direction. So therefore, there's another thing to understand. The modification of the Rūpa, the viññati, is something that we can assume it's something, a modification made on the Rūpa by the chitta while it is present. When it is gone, the modification cannot be found. But the modified nature, the Rūpa is behaving now according to the intention, because it's been turned. Now it's like a person who is driving a car. The steering wheel, with the intention, the steering wheel is turned. Then even we take out the steering wheel and the driver is gone. As long as the tires are turned towards a certain direction, the car would flow that way. So if you take the vayu dhatu as the wheels of the vehicle, viññati is like the steering wheel, and the person, chitta, is like the one who is driving, and the body of the car is our body made out of four causes. So when the tires move towards a certain direction, then the tires roll towards a certain direction, the body of the car moves, and that is being directed by the steering wheel. But in the steering wheel's case, it still remains, but this slight turn made by the driver is like the viññati. Imagine if the steering wheel was completely taken away with the driver, if the tires would still remain in the direction it was turned, the vehicle would still go towards that direction, right? So that is another point that we should understand. Another thing is, viññati is never seen by the eye. What we see or what we feel is never felt to the body even. What we see and what we feel is the Rūpas of the body, color and the touch. Then we assume what the viññati is. I have given it in a diagram actually, page number 2. In the touching, through seeing, someone sees the color of the Rūpa. Then it has been recaptured by a mind-door process, which is a natural phenomena occurring in after any of the 5 sense door processes. Then kaya viññati is known. Kaya viññati is known through the mind door. So intention, when knowing the intention directly without going to, according to Theravada teaching, directly before knowing the intention of the doer, first the mind door process understands the intention of the doer. Then it captures the vachi kaya vinyatti, though we are not aware of this. Then with the next mind door process, the person captures or understands this would have been the intention of the person. If someone is running towards us, intending to hit, we know now he's going to hit me. I see the color coming, the color rupas, the pachupanna rupas, then it's been retaken by the mind door. Then what happens? We knows what this it's clear a human is coming and someone is coming towards us. Then what happens? We without being aware of that, our mind takes the vinyatti of the person. That his body is being moved or behaved, the influence of the mind towards the body. That's what the Theravadians say. Then what happens? He assumes this would be the intention of the person. This would be the intention of the person. Maybe it may go wrong. He may have come to save us or do something to protect us. Though we may misunderstand that this is the intention, but this is the process. So first they see the color. With the first mind door I-door process, they see the color, the pachupanna, present color. Then with the mind door process, they recapture this past color. This may happen for many times in order to get a clear view. We shall talk this in the Chittaviti lessons. Then in the next, another mind door process, the kaya vinyatti is known. Kaya vinyatti is known with the mind door process. Then the intention of the doer. Of the doer is assumed. Right? So kaya vinyatti is never seen with the eye. This is a chakku vinyana process. These are all mano vinyana processes, mind door processes. Right? So if someone now, while someone is acting, behaving, if we assume his intentions, then this is the process. In between, there are many vitis going in between in order to have a vivid view. Right? That is something we have to study in another lesson. Right? Yes. Then if I go into, it is 2.7. Further, kaya vinyatti is not a paramatta dhamma, no panyatti. It is a modification occurring in a material ultimate reality. It's like, it's not a paramatta dhamma. Kaya vinyatti is not a paramatta. It's very clearly mentioned in the commentaries. It's not a paramatta dhamma. I think I have given the wrong references actually. Yeah. I shall send you a complete handout, most probably after this lecture. It's actually it's mentioned in the Dhammasangani commentaries. Vinyatti is not a paramatta dhamma. At the same time, it's not a panyatti. It's a modification on a paramatta by the mind, due to the mind. Right. So then, so in Dhammasangani, but still we can count it as another rupas, 28 rupas. It's possible. It's been done in the Dhammasangani, but the tradition holds the idea. It's not though it's mentioned, it's not an ultimate reality because it doesn't have its own existence. It's just a modification made on the Rūpa by the mind. Then 2 point. Even though kaya vinyatti is not an ultimate, it is one of the major reasons for beings to have the karaka ditti. It brings forth the wrong view of the doer, wrong view of a doer of actions. Beings come into this view by observing the accurate relationship of physical actions with their intentions. Right? So I want to move, so I move. I want to sit, so I sit. So our body behaves according to the desire. As it was stated above, this relationship is due to the presence of kaya vinyatti in the chittaja vaya dhatu. Hence, kaya vinyatti generally contributes to the karaka ditti. If kaya vinyatti is not there, this phenomenon would never be observed. Then, such a karaka, it's very rare that such a karaka ditti would come because our body is not behaving according to our mind. Right? Imagine if the body was behaving, having a completely different functioning while the mind was intending something, then we would not exist actually. Then the life would not sustain for sure. Then there will be no room for karaka ditti as well. So one of the basic requirements for karaka ditti, the the doer of the actions, the wrong view of believing of a doer, is the presence of kaya viññati. Then the tradition explains what is the mechanism. Now I just explained briefly how to understand the position of kaya viññati in the tradition. Now if I just go for a brief explanation how the movements happen, for instance, if you are going to lift this hand, for example, there are many questions one can ask, because while we are lifting, another part is stiffening. When we are lifting a certain leg, we have to push the other leg to the ground, otherwise you cannot get the force. So how this is done seems like sometimes it can be a natural process. At the same time, it could also be intentional activities, that every slight action that is done could be intentional, right? While we are lifting the leg, at the same time we are pushing the other leg down. So there could be some two different processes going on. Or while we are lifting the leg, naturally the other leg is being pushed to the earth as a physical phenomena. Anything is possible, but the tradition doesn't go into such details. But actually, when we are closely observing the anatomy of the body, it's obvious we cannot make isolated physical movements without the help of the other body parts. And we see slight changes in those body parts while you are lifting and making movements, muscles are involved. So it could be a natural physical process. While we are intended to lift our arm, other parts of the body are moving as a natural, has a physical process, or maybe some other intentional activities are also involved. I'm unable to give an exact answer to this. Then if the person is intended to lift the arm, Chitta wants to lift the arm upwards, so arm has to go up. So what is happening, because when I'm drawing this, there can be a lot of questions asked. Now according to this, abandoned Vayo Dhatu, Chitta Kriya Vayo Dhatu arises in this area, in the area that which I want to lift. But at the same time we feel some other areas, because since we are making a movement, Vayo and Tejo also should be there for the facilitating the movement, making it lighter. At the same time, Vayo should make the force towards a certain direction. At the same time, some other parts of the body are stiffening. Patavi has to increase, right? Otherwise you cannot move your limbs. It's interrelated. Then what happens is this, because of this Chitta, these Rupas are arising. Then every Rupa is modified by the Chitta. So if the Chitta had this intention to circle it, the Rupas, the Kalapas, each and every Kalapa which is happening, if I zoom them, they have this modification in them based on the Chitta. Then these Rupas, and there are some other Rupas as well. Now if we zoom this thing, there are Rupas, other Rupas as well, made out of Kamma, Utu, Ahara, right? So when this Chittaja Vayo is modified by the Chitta, Chittaja Vayo Dhatu is modified by the Chitta, it's creating the force toward the intended direction. Then when there are groups of balls, for example, if we make a force to a group of one layer, while it's moving, it drags the others as well, because they are interconnected, their interrelationship is there, interclusteral relationship is there. So while we are making this to move, the others are also moved towards that direction, because they are bound interclusterally. Then the entire structure starts to move. It's only Vayo Dhatu is being pushed. Push means modified by the consciousness. When Vayo is moving, it creates the force on the physical body, upon the physical body. Then the other Rupas, Utuja Rupas, Utuja Rupas, other types of Chittaja Rupas, Kammaja Rupas, Aharaja Rupas, which are found in the body, happens to move. A simile is given in the commentaries. When a piece of wood has fallen into the water, it may contain some part. For example, think a tree is grown there. when the wood is moving, the tree also moves. So likewise, when the Vayu Dhatu is made to move by the consciousness, the rupas that are connected, the remaining other rupas, our body, physical body, which is connected to the Vayus, also starts to move. So we say our body is moving according to the intention. Then the question that comes is, now while the intention is to move, lift the hand up, yes, it's logical to assume that these Vayu Dhatus were at the same direction of the intention, but how about these Vayu Dhatu of these parts? They should have a different direction, because they cannot be moving to the same direction, because when I'm lifting my arm, these parts, this body, different parts are moving to a different direction, while the upper part is moving towards another direction. So the directions do change. So what we have to understand is, take the intention as a one thing. So intention is to move the limb up, then the physical structure is behaving according to this. So modification on each and every kalapa is not the same. It's not the same direction. If it were the same direction, we would never be able to lift our arm in this way, right? So otherwise we can assume every modification of every kalapa is at the same direction. Intention is to lift, but since the physical structure prohibits this, physical structure, even though my intention is to lift the arm to this side, but Rupa Kalapa, Vayu Dhatu, which is happening in this area, is moving a different direction, while our upper part is moving to a different direction. It's a different modification. But another way to assume is, every Kalapa had the same modification based on the intention, but the physical structure, because this part is attached to this biceps, so it was unable to move according to the direction. It moved within the range it is allowed by the physical structure of the body. So another way to look into this is, one way is taking this intention as one, and the Rupa Kalapas are behaving according to this intention accordingly how they are located. Another way is, the modification is same in all the Kalapas, but since they are connected to the body with different angles in different locations, so though the modification happens similarly to the same modification happens according to Chitta, they are restricted, their movements are restricted by the physical structure. So that's another way to explain this process. Anyway, then yes, another final thing to explain is, now when does this movement happen? According to Theravada teachings, Kalapas or any reality does not move from its location. Rupas arise and vanishes in its own location. So what is movement then? What is physical movement? When this Rupa arise and pass away at this location, the next generation of Rupas are happening in a different location. The next generation happening in a different location. So when the time passes, we see Rupas at a different location. But each and every Rupa which happened has passed away on its location of origin. That's all. We also discussed this in the case of breathing. In the case of breathing. Then when does this now new Rupas are happening in a different location? The Dhammasanganik commentary says, how the Chitta is performing this activity. Now mind or process, Mano Bhavanga, Manodwara Vajjana, then we have 7 javanas. Physical movements cannot be done with 5 sense door processes. Then Tadalamana. So each and every javana produces Chittaja Rupa. It's not only one Rupa, a lot of Chittaja Rupas. Then if we take now first javana produces Rupa here. Second javana also produces Rupa at the same location. Right? They are producing Rupas. Third javana also produces Rupa. Fourth javana produces Rupa. Fifth javana produces Rupa. Sixth also produces Rupa in the same location. But the change happens, when does it move? Moving means a new Rupa happening in a different location, right? So the 7th javana is what is responsible of producing a Rupa at a different location. So if the simile is given, if a cart is being dragged by 7 horses who have been combined, 7 horses, a heavier cart is dragged by 7 horses. Now think the 6 are making the effort. If the cart is very heavy, 6 are making the effort, still the cart is unmoved. Then the 7th one, when the 7th one, maybe the front one or the back one, okay, the 7th one starts to put the effort, then with the accumulation of the force of the 7 horses, the cart starts to move. In the same way, it says with the 7th jhana, the rise of the 7th jhana, Rūpa starts to arise slightly ahead. And the whole structure starts, not only the Vayo Dhatu, the entire bodily structure would start, Rūpa Kalapas of the body starts to appear in a different location. So what does this imply? This implies the accumulation of the force. The simile itself suggests this, the accumulation of the force. So Rūpa Kalapas with Vayo Dhatu, when they are accumulated in a certain location, just Kalapas produced by one Chitta is unable to make the movement. So many Kalapas produced by many Chittas, when they are accumulated, the force gets accumulated and it starts to, body starts to move. Then Paramattha Dipani suggests that this example, they say, Paramattha Dipani suggests, I couldn't give the reference actually, I'll send it in the new handout. Paramattha Dipani suggests that this simile has to be further elaborated. This is, though the commentary says this happens in, the simile is given with a VT, it should not be understood that person is, we are making movement just with one Chitta VT. Why is that? Sayadaw's suggestion is, Lady Sayadaw's suggestion is, if such movements could happen with one VT, we'll be moving super fast. Because consciousness is very fast. If such movements could be done with one VT, which duration is unimaginably short, if one VT could make such an influence, we'll be moving so fast and there will be super fast activities like done by the people with psychic powers, as we read in the literature. So what he suggests is, it's not just one VT, many VTs are happening in this manner. Many VTs are happening in the same manner. Then many Rūpas are produced in the same location. Many Rūpas are produced in the same location. When the sufficient power is made, then this movement happens. That also makes sense, because otherwise we'll be moving super fast if bodily movements could be done with one process. Right? So compared to the speed of the speed of the body and compared to the speed of the mind. Speed of the body compared to the speed of the mind, it would have been very fast otherwise. So that's why he suggests, no, many processes should run before a physical movement is made. And then it leads to another fundamental. If we are to take the Paramattha Dipani's explanation as accurate, what happens is, though if there are many processes going on, till the force is being accumulated, what does this have? Because every Rūpa passes away with 17 mind mode. This leads to another problem. What does it mean? Now, if many processes are running, the Rūpa Kalapas produced by the prior Chittas have already passed away by some time. So when the Chittas, those Rūpa Kalapas pass away, Vayo Dhatu, what is the accumulation of the strength or the force? Because we will have only 51 Rūpa Kalapas which are in the age of 51 mind moments, because you cannot have Rūpa Kalapas beyond the 17 mind moments. 51 sub-mind moment, the range would be within 51 sub-mind moments. So then according to that, what Lady Sayadaw is suggesting, there is an accumulation of force generational wise. According to the commentary, what we mention is, what they explain is, there is an accumulation of force in a quantity. Many Rūpa Kalapas happening, more the Kalapas, then we get a force, and then with the 7th Javana, we start to move. If you are to take that many generation of Chittas are happening as accurate, then it makes sense, it has some logic. Then what happens, the Rūpa Kalapas which are happening at a later stage, the strength, because why it delays, one reason is to accumulate the force. So the kalapas which are happening at a later period are more forceful than the kalapas the prior period. And the thing is, they have passed away actually. So it's a build-up, generational build-up in the lineage of rupas are happening. So when many VTs are processing, this is what I want to mention. Now movements happen here. The kalapas which arose here in the same location, by this time they pass away. But the kalapas that are produced by these chittas, right, they brings to the threshold of the force, and then the movement happens. So the force created by these rupas has to be higher than the force created by the rupas in the beginning stage. But still, if they existed till the end, yes, we can understand that abundance of rupa have gathered and the force is there. But here, since the Theravadians say the rupa passes away after 17 mind moments, while this incident happens, those rupas are not there. But at the same time, the force created by these rupas has to be higher than the force created by the rupas in the beginning stage. So accumulation of force has happened generational wise. A generational wise accumulation has happened here. It's not that rupa, the number of rupas, when the generations pass away, the force is accumulated. Another way to think about this. Then, so these are the function of the how the kaya viññati is function. So I will conclude the lecture. I discussed few important points. So this is how the mind-body interaction problem is answered by the Theravadians. Mind creates rupa, and that rupa makes the body to move, and that created rupa is modified by the chitta, so the movements happens according to the intentions. Then yes, so we understand this, then this viññati, the modification is the viññati, and viññati helps us to understand the intention of the doer, and viññati is never seen by the eye, it's assumed by the mind, but it helps us because of the presence of viññati. We know our physical movements happen according to our intentions. So it's a pathway to understand the doer's intentions. That's why it's called viññati in one sense. Then this is how the process happens. We talked about the process, and then the mechanism. Abandoned vayo dhatu is happening in the relevant body parts, and they have been modified, so the entire body starts, the relevant body part starts to move. And then we talked how whether the modification is equal in every body, every kalapa, or it can be different, right? But it could be still equal because of the limitations made by the bodily structure. They behave differently. That is also possible. Then how the commentary says the accumulation of force when doing the bodily movements, the movement happens with the viññati produced by the 7 javana. Lady Shadow says this is the 7 javana of after many viti. It happens with the 7 javana. He still respects the commentarial explanation because he has to respect in the tradition, but he says this phenomena cannot be observed within one viti. It normally happens after many vitis, but at the end of the 7 javana of the last viti, right? So then if we are to take in the commentarial explanation suggests the accumulation of force happens with the number of rupa kalapas produced with the 7 javanas. If Lady Shadow suggests that according to his explanation, accumulation of force has happened even through lineages, even many generations, and then the movement happens. So finally, this viññati is a great contributor for the karaka ditti, the wrong view that a person is here and performing the actions as intended. So, but in the end, according to Theravada, because of the intention, because there's intention, rupa arises. That rupa is non-self, and it is being modified by the chitta. It's not a self influence of the self. With the intention, the rupa is behaving according to the intention. So there are two different entities, not the same person acting. So it's non-self actually. Then this, based on the modified rupa, the body starts to move. So it shows understanding this mechanism leads to the understanding of the non-self doctrine. So I would conclude the lecture. If you have any questions, you can ask them.
May I ask my question, Venerable?
Yes.
My question is simple. When mind needs to do something, mind is desirous of doing something like eating. The process of eating goes on. Then it may be the consciousness greedy rooted to delusion rooted to hatred rooted. But when it comes to tasting, the mind can get rid of that or avoid that. I think it is because it is a resultant mind, resultant chitta. The tasting is a resultant chitta. Then mind cannot stop it, and process of eating or halfway through, even at halfway through, mind can stop. But tasting cannot be stopped because it is a resultant consciousness. Is that way correct?
Yes, we can say like that, because resultant consciousness, whenever the conditions are there, the resultant consciousness would arise or will arise for sure. But intended behavior is a long process. The arising of resultant consciousness is a one mind moment thing, and it may happen in many vithis, following vithis, but still it's the occurrence of one chitta based on the conditions. But intentional movements, deliberate movements, bodily movements are done, happens in a process. So intention should be there, the effort should be there. If we want, we could stop it. If we want, we could stop it. So the process can be interrupted. Even though we have started the process, for example, some person starts to do something wrong, in between he may find it not beneficial or not. If he couldn't justify his activity, he may stop this process. Possible. So yes, we can say the resultant consciousnesses are beyond our control in one sense. So the other consciousnesses are in our control. Control doesn't mean that we are advocating a self. If there is no control in decision making, there would be the world would be determined actually according to physicalism and according to the causality. So there is some slight sort of control of the mind. That's why the mind can be controlled, and that's why Buddha asked us to restrain, intentionally restrain from activities. So yes, they can be stopped, but the vipaka chittas cannot be stopped because they just happen due to conditions. This is not within our range of control.
Thank you, I understood well.
Okay, now so then we'll conclude the class. We may conclude the lecture. So thank you for listening, and next day we today discussed about the Kaya Viññati. Next lecture would be about Vaci Viññati, which will be an interesting lecture because there are contradicting explanations within the tradition itself. So, and we'll try to get the best out of it. So I hope you enjoyed it, and with this merit of listening to Dhamma and explaining Dhamma, may we the merit that we accumulate, may it helps us to attain the final liberation called Nibbana, and may it helps to the sustaining of the Buddha Sasana. Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu.